Pierre Poilievre came out swinging today, criticizing Prime Minister Mark Carney on multiple fronts. At an Ottawa briefing, the Conservative Party leader outlined his calls for stricter financial disclosure rules. This comes as he prepares to run in a by-election in Alberta, hoping to win back a seat in Parliament. Poilievre was again asked to make clear his feelings about the Alberta separatist movement.
Well, I disagree with separation. I'm a Canadian patriot. I was born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, and I understand the frustration. I still think that there's no other country in the world where someone of my modest origins would be able to make it to this place. And that's the story that millions of people have lived and relived from across the country. So we are united by that Canadian promise. But as I say, and I say it here and I've been saying for years, we have to put a final end to this notion that Ottawa tells Alberta to pay up and shut up. And that's what Albertans have been told by this Liberal government for a decade. Their frustrations are entirely legitimate. Alberta is the #1 net contributor, per capita contributor to Confederation, paying more in tax than getting back in federal programs.
The CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian is in Ottawa. He has more on the Conservative leader's demand for updated ethics rules, his upcoming by-election, and calls to move more quickly on critical projects.
The main goal of the news conference certainly was to go after those financial holdings. Now, if we rewind to Friday, that's when the Ethics Commissioner publicly disclosed those assets that Mark Carney had placed into a blind trust after becoming Liberal leader, assets that were linked to his previous roles in the private sector as chair of Brookfield Asset Management. He'd also worked for a company named Stripe Incorporated on the board of directors there. And Carney had placed those assets into a blind trust. What we didn't know is what the assets consisted of. So with those disclosures, we found out he had more than 100 of these assets. The commissioner said that a vast majority of those were placed into the trust out of an abundance of precaution. That does not seem to be good enough for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party, though. They're saying Carney should get rid of those assets completely. He should sell them off. And furthermore, they're saying that the rules should be changed. The law currently allows a prime minister or a cabinet minister to basically divest themselves of assets that could place them in a conflict of interest by either selling them off or placing them into this blind trust, having this screen so that they can't make decisions about those assets. The Conservatives are suggesting the latter is not good enough. Now, we did reach out to the Prime Minister's office for comment about this, about what the Conservatives are asking for, and they did not really respond directly. Instead, they sent us a statement which they'd already released on Friday, essentially reminding people that Mark Carney has already followed the law as it exists right now.
And Rafi, Pierre Poilievre was also asked about his support for the controversial Bill C-5. What did he have to say?
Yeah, C-5 being the legislation that the government recently passed, which allows essentially Ottawa to sort of fast-track large nation-building projects, think pipelines or energy grids, by making sure that there aren't two sets of rules or two different layers of bureaucracy, a provincial/territorial and federal one, that a project would have to go through before getting the green light, that they could only pick one of those as long as the project is in the national interest. The Conservatives did vote for the project. For the legislation, Poilievre was asked about his support on that.
I don't want anybody to think for a second that we think C-5 is a solution. The real solution is to get rid of C-69, C-48, the emissions cap, the industrial carbon tax, and many more of these other terrible Liberal policies. Then and only then will the hundreds or even thousands of projects that need to go ahead have a free market in which to do so.
C-5 will be in the spotlight later this week, Andrew. It was controversial with many Indigenous nations, and they will be coming to Ottawa for a summit with the Prime Minister about how the legislation should be implemented.
The CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian in Ottawa.